Welcome in. My name is Arya and I'm a research analyst at FinChat, and in today's video we're going to be looking at some of the best custom metrics that we've been able to identify so far. Of course, we recently released the custom metrics feature to our platform, which has been a massive value add to our users, allowing users to formulate and create any metric that they desire, pinning together different financials and KPIs, valuation metrics, all of course done on the beautiful FinChat charting interface. So without further ado, first thing we're going to want to do is navigate over to the finchat.io website. You can search any different company you like to be able to create custom metrics for, but for now we're going to search up Costco because that's the first custom metric that we're going to be looking at. So in order to actually get there, you're going to want to navigate over to the financials tab after searching for Costco. From there, towards the middle of your screen, there's the custom metrics tab. The one that we're going to focus on today is the enterprise value to warehouse metric, which currently isn't saved as a dropdown. So in order to do that, we're going to click on add custom metrics. There's an option at the top to apply metrics to all companies. I'm going to have that toggled off for now because this is a Costco specific metric that we're looking at. It is in fact a ratio, although you have the option between a number and a percentage. I'm going to title it EV to warehouse. And then from the metrics dropdown, we're going to search for TEV, which immediately brings up the total enterprise value. I'm going to put a division symbol there, and I'm going to search for warehouse. Now there's a couple different things here, but the specific KPI that we're looking for is the total warehouses KPI. And then towards the bottom, I'm just going to click add/update the metric. And there you go. You can see that the EV to warehouse custom metric has now been generated. And so again, if we just click onto this, it'll generate just like a normal FinChat chart would. So in this case, what this custom metric is telling us is that the average Costco warehouse is currently being valued in the market at $500 million just for one Costco warehouse. Truly remarkable numbers, considering that one Costco warehouse on its own would be a small cap business. Moving on, a highly popular and highly requested custom metric that you can now create on the FinChat platform is the operating margins of specific segments. In this case, we're going to actually look at Google Cloud's operating margins over time. Now again, for the sake of this video, it's not already saved as a metric, so what we're going to do is click on the add custom metric. In this case, it's actually not a ratio, it's a percentage because we're looking at margins. We're going to keep the toggle off because it's specific to Google. Title it Google Cloud Platform Operating Margins. And then we're just going to want to search for Google Cloud. And so Google Cloud Operating Margins divided by Google Cloud Revenue, making sure that the formula is correct. And we're just going to add the metric. And there you go. We now have available to us the Google Cloud Operating Margins within a few seconds. And so you could actually flow down to, for example, a quarterly view to see the operating margins over time on a quarterly basis. You can also add the trailing 12 months of operating margins and get a sort of smoother look in terms of how this business is progressing over time, change it to bar charts to really emphasize the break-even point, so on and so forth. Now, our custom metrics don't stop at just looking at the market value of a warehouse or, just margins of specific segments. You can also get the average selling price of certain goods that the business is selling. So for example, a very apparent case of average selling price being important to investors would be, for example, the average selling price of a Ferrari. And of course, Ferrari publicly shares the number of cars sold as a KPI. So what we're going to want to do is navigate over down to the segments and KPIs section. And actually the reason why I'm not bringing in the total revenues number and dividing that by the total amount of cars is because they bring in revenues through multiple different streams. So for example, there's the sponsorship, commercial, and brand revenue, which obviously isn't concerned with actually the number of cars sold. So you bring in the cars and spare parts revenue. We divide that by the total shipments KPI. So this would just be the total cars that they've sold. And actually it's giving us an error that we haven't named the metric. So we're going to go up here and we're going to say ASP, which stands for average selling price of shipments. Keep the toggle off. It is in fact a ratio and looks good to me. So we're going to click add metric, populate it on the charting interface, and you'll see that over the past decade roughly, Ferrari has actually doubled the average selling price of their cars. And we can even flow this down to a bar chart just like you normally would with any other chart within FinChat. So of course, the significance of this chart would be that you're able to visually see the price increases that Ferrari can drive onto their customers and sort of get a gauge of the incremental growth expectations that come with this business. Next up, a very interesting business, given the sort of oscillations in terms of the challenges that they've faced over the past give or take decade. We're going to look at Chipotle. And so for Chipotle, we're actually going to look at the free cash flow per store. And this one's a bit of a tricky one because obviously Chipotle throughout the year is sort of opening new stores. So on any given year, there's a handful of stores that are only, for example, 3 months old, 6 months old, whatever the case may be. So they haven't been producing cash flows for an entire year. So we're actually going to do something very interesting with the formula builder here. Again, navigate over to the add custom metrics. This is in fact a ratio. We're going to, again, keep that toggle off, name it cash flow per store. And let's just bring in a couple things here. So for example, the total restaurant count. I'm also going to flow down to the cash flow statement, free cash flow, and bring in the free cash flow figure. And from here, we're going to do a little bit of formulating. So we're going to bring in that division symbol, drag over the total restaurant count. But we can't simply just do this equation because, again, it's not an accurate representation of the actual average cash flow per store. This would just show it at the end of each year, which, again, some stores haven't been open for an entire year. So what we're going to want to do is we're actually going to bring in brackets, move the bracket to engulf the total restaurant count figure. And then I'm actually going to bring the total restaurant count again, put it within the bracket, bring in a plus symbol. And so what this would do, this would just currently add the total restaurant count twice, but we don't want that. So instead we have the T-1 feature. And so if you click on this little arrow here and click T-1, what this is doing is now it takes the current year of, or the current period. So for example, Q4 of 2024. And when you add T-1, it just goes back by a full year to Q4 of 2023. And let's just say you were looking at the full year 2024, it would just simply go back to 2023 and take the full year 2023, whatever the case may be. So when we're doing this, we're actually adding up 2 years worth of restaurants. I'm also going to bring in another division. I'm going to bring in a 2 to divide by 2 to get the average. And actually it seems we're missing some brackets here. So we're going to put those around it and it looks good to me. So we're adding up this year and last year's total restaurant count. We're dividing by 2 to get the average. And then the average restaurant count over the past 2 years, we're dividing that by the total free cash flow that the business is currently producing. So let's just add that metric, populate it over on the charting interface. Let's switch it over to a bar chart. And there you have it. This is the average amount of free cash flow that a Chipotle store generates throughout a year over the past 10 years. Quite a mouthful, but I hope that makes sense. And you're kind of able to draw insights from this chart as well. You're able to see the average cash flow that a Chipotle store is able to produce in any given year. And then additionally, you're kind of able to track the trend of that over time. Of course, the absolute number of, for example, 40,000, 45,000 could be out of context unless you're looking at it next to every single other year that Chipotle was producing free cash flow, right? So for example, you could right away spot that free cash flow and profitability fell off a cliff in 2016. Of course, that's because of the E. coli outbreaks that they had during that period and the troubles that the business was going through at that time. Last but not least, we're actually going to look at a smaller, lesser known business, very popular and growing incredibly fast, Duolingo. This is, of course, the language learning app. So it gives you like daily lessons to learn phrases and sentences and speak into the phone about any language that you're trying to learn, right? And so they have a free side to it. And additionally, they have a subscription where you unlock more features, right? And so naturally, for any subscription, not just Duolingo, it'd be very insightful to know what percentage of your core user base, so for example, your monthly active users, what percentage of them are actually paying users. And so again, we're going to navigate over to the add custom metric. We're going to have the toggle to apply to all companies off. It's not a ratio, actually. This is a percentage because we're trying to figure out the percentage of the percentage of monthly actives that are paid. And so we're going to title it paid subs as a percentage of MAUs. MAU stands for monthly active users. We're going to flow down to the segments and KPIs, scroll down all the way to the bottom, find the paid subscribers figure. And then additionally, I'm just going to search for monthly active users, bring in a division symbol, slide it in between the two, and that looks good to me. So we're going to add this metric. And you'll see towards the bottom of your screen, we've now created this custom metric and are able to track the percentage of Duolingo monthly actives who are actually paying for a subscription. And you'll see that this has doubled over the past, roughly four years or so. It seems that since Q3 of 2020, we've gone from 4.1% to 8.1%. And so with that being said, the possibilities are truly endless with custom metrics. Anything you can imagine, odds are you can probably formulate it with the incredible visual charting interface. And so if that sounds interesting to you and you'd like to try FinChat, you could actually do so completely for free. There's no card details required, and we automatically apply the trial to your account once you sign up with the link down below. So head over to finchat.io and start supercharging your investment research with our one-of-a-kind data and charting capabilities. Thank you for watching.